Hi, it's Pete the Bumbling Modeler back again. So this may be a tad disjointed now. Since I've last filmed anything, I've had a week away in Wales and a week off work, so I've kind of lost track of where I am. I've just looked through all the footage I had. I think I've explained, put on the decals, bit of dry brushing, the kit's fully assembled, and we're going to do a little bit of weathering, not much. I don't really like a heavily weathered model myself. It's personal choice, but a little bit. So first of all, we're going to put some little paint chips down these edges and along the front here where it naturally get abused. A bit around the steps where they've got in, and a bit along the top. Now, again, it's going to be a slightly different way to the way I normally do things, just because we're on this doing on a shoestring sort of thing. So I've mixed a slightly lighter green colour out of the base colour green and the sand yellow. I've just done it by eye, any colour will do, but if you get a chip and a scratch, first of all you get lighter paint where the oxide layer wears off, then you'll get a deeper dark underlaying thing where it's gone down to primer or bare metal, and that's what we're going to try and simulate in places. We're not going to go wild. This brush is a bit more pointed than normally use. The paint appears quite thick, but actually paints quite well. I'll just touch a bit here just to see. Yeah. I think what I'll do, there'll be a slight twangy noise. I'm going to put my head magnifier on, I think, so I can see properly. I'm half blind. So, although it seems thick, it does seem to brush on quite well. So you might hear a few knocks and thumps as my head magnifier crashes into things. But this is the sort of gist of it. We're going to get a little bit on the brush. I'm going to look at the model logically. We know we're going to get a lot of chipping around this sort of area where it's pushing through undergrowth and brushes, and you're not going to see it looking massively light. You're just going to see it's a bit lighter than the surrounding paint. So we're not going to, you'll notice it more something that draws your eye to it rather than see what you've done. It's one of these subtle effects. If you can actually see the paint, you've probably gone, they'll get a good old chip in there. You've probably gone a bit too much. Well, you might go on some edges a bit lighter again. Round here, obviously, by the nature of what it does, the edge is going to get quite a bit of abuse. But it's not going to lighten the paint massively. All it's going to do is take that top weathered dirty layer, it's just going to almost look a bit cleaner. Is the effect we're going to at this moment in time. We're going to go in a bit deeper. Obviously that front plate will get quite a bit. So we've done that. We'll come around this edge. And again, it's an effect, not a vision. So we'll just tap it there. So it's that little bit lighter than we'd like. Now crew are going to get in and out of it. So again, where we've got the footholes and areas like that, we're going to get quite a bit of abuse. Diving in and out, that'll get a bit lighter. So you're not really going to see this as such. You're just going to be aware there's something a little bit different. And again, it's very much an artistic license. Just do what you feels right. So he's just caught the T with his boot there. I'm thinking when he's climbed in, the driver. wherever that handle is, it'd get quite a bit. I would imagine as you climb in here, that storage box is going to get a bit of abuse. And yeah, we need to maybe the edges of these boxes. So I think that'll probably work out. And then I'm going to go a shade lighter and just then some areas lighten them up again, and then we'll go in with a little bit of the black. So let's give that a little bit of it. I don't really want to use my brush to mix it up because I don't want to get it all over my brush. Just so. It's a little bit lighter. Get the old stuff off the brush, get the new stuff on. Then we can go and lighten up some areas again. So again, around these steps, you get the most obvious wear. Around these sand shields. We're going to do something else with that in a minute. The edges of these sticking out be asking for trouble along that front shield there. Random places. So we're not going to go wild. We're just going to that wherever that is, I'll get it. Sand shield there, a bit heavy on that, doesn't matter. Around there again, where it's got a chip. Actually, we're going to turn that one into a scratch, I think. These things aren't driven on the public highway, so they might scratch against fences and things. That's anything we can do to add a bit of visual appeal and character, really. On this side, I'm doing a bit heavier on the basis that the driver sits on that side. So you're naturally going to make yourself a bit clearance on that side when you go through hedges and trees and things. So this side's going to be the one that gets all the abuse. And when you do it, it's that sort of mental picture you're trying to get how it's being driven. You can look at all the reference photos in the world, but if you get something in your mind about how things have occurred, it just makes it a bit. Got a bigger chip there by accident, but that's staying. Just gives you that mental leap, so you get what you want. And these, I'll get the paint worn off them, so we'll just do that. And we're doing something else to them in a minute, but just the very outer edge of those sprockets. Sorry about that. It's the sneezy time of year. So, again, just a little bit on that sprocket there, just to highlight the teeth. So what we're doing here is a little bit heavier than the dry brushing. We're actually painting it on rather than that one while we were just going over the surface. And then we're going to go over that with a bit of pencil later on so they look shiny. Because the paint will obviously wear off those almost instantly, no matter how well you paint them. That track's rubbing against them, so I'll just do that. okay. And it's sort of hasn't done a lot, but it's added that little bit of character. That scratch might be a bit heavy, but we've just got that. When you look at it now, you can see little light areas where grass and foliage and bits of old gravel and things were bounced up and chipped against stuff. So that's the sort of effect we're going for. So that's that bit done. I shall switch off and leave it a minute to for that paint to dry, then we'll do the next bit we're going to do. Okay, so we've got rid of most of that green, left a little bit in there so you get a bit of continuity of the colour, and put in a load of the rubber black. So we've got a dark blacky green colour in there now, and what I want to do is just a very smallest tip on the tip of the brush. And this is a bit where you have to be careful. You can't do it everywhere because it looks silly, but when you do get a chip, you'll get that light halo, then you'll get a dark colour where it goes down to sheet metal underneath. So what we're trying to do is simulate that and make some of these chips look a bit more 3D. So underneath, or in the middle of that halo there, it's awkward to do this on camera actually because I want to get my head closer, but then you won't see what I'm doing. A lot of these YouTube channels say that, and I finally understood what they mean. So we just want to get in the middle of it. Still on camera, Joe. Just put a darker bit. And again, it's a Tamiya paint, so it's not flowing that well. That Humbrol paint paints really well. I have to thin it slightly. So you want to keep that as much of that halo of, might be a bit dark actually, the light colour around there, and just have a little black splodge in the middle, and around this step again it will have worn right through. So we'll just do that sort of thing. Maybe a bit down here. So don't do it on every chip, you just want to make, as it's drying back flat, actually it's looking a lot better. So around here, that one we'll say was a deep one. That one. I don't want to do them all. Things like the steps, yeah, we want to do that because they are the ones that are going to get the most abuse as they leap in and out of this with hobnail boots on. That's that done. We'll have a few here that have gone deep where they've clunked into rocks and boulders. And it's tricky because you want to be random, but being random and human isn't the same thing. We are a predictable bunch. Working on our theory that this side's going to get more abuse because it's out of the driver's line of sight. We'll do a bit on that. But that's worn right through, maybe a bit on this one as well. What the heck? And they're not paying the repair bills, so they're not always going to be the most careful, are they? Around here we'll have a few. I'm hoping all this is on camera. Sorry, I'm concentrating on what I'm doing and not where my hand is. It's starting to thicken up. That's a triple Tamiya paint. I'll just put I don't want to put too much water in. Hang on. I'll do. What the heck? Yeah, the Tamiya paints do gel up quite quickly, unfortunately. They're brilliant for spraying. Not quite there with paintbrushing as some other ones. Then they're a lot tougher when on the model, but you want it to flow really nicely while you're doing this. So you don't get big, thick blobs. You just want to get that effect. That's gone a bit high, but we'll live with that. It's all a bit subjective. We're definitely having this one will have a lot down here. Where else are we going? We don't go wild. Maybe more down that sand shield there. a bit more along the bottom there where it's had quite a bit of abuse. Right, I'm hoping you can see that one where it's dried off. It makes that chip look quite three-dimensional. You get that lighter surface going down to the black metal. That's what you want. And we're not going to do much more than that. The only other one we're going to do, don't paint on your hands, it's wrong, is that scratch would initially be deep where it's hit something. That deep line, then it's going to fade away to virtually nothing, maybe a little bit more there. So you've given that scratch a bit of, I'm trying not to get camera in any head in the camera. Yeah. So you've got that quite deep gouge and it's fading out, but it's still going down a little bit there and it fades off. So you get that idea the scratch is quite progressive, and that's what we're looking at. I don't think we need to do much more. I'm going to leave those just pale because we're going to go over there to them with graphite. Although theoretically the paint would chip then the graphite. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the way that scratch looks. Quite like it round here. And instead of just having little pale bits, you've got a bit more definition on what to chip. So that's all we need to do on that, because I don't want it really beaten up and battered. I just want it to make it look a bit lived in. So the next thing, I'm going to finish my cup of coffee, which is just in shot here. We're going to have to let that harden up a bit, and then we're going to get some watery versions of that. And just over the lower hull, we're just going to paint it though dust's been thrown up and dried on the hull. But we just need to let that paint chipping harden up a bit first. So real term, probably leave it an hour or so to be safe, because we are going to put a lot of water on into water soluble paint. In an hour we should be all right if we're gentle, and then let that dry off and it's job done. So I'll be back in a minute, but you'll see me right away. Okay, it's been about an hour. Really I'd leave that a lot longer, but yeah, the chips are dry enough I think to do what we're going to do. So I've got a squirt of the yellowish paint we're using as a dust in there. I'm going to put a little drop of washing up liquid in because we want this to be quite free flowing, and it just stops. Oh, that's probably too much, but it'll be frothy, but it doesn't matter. What we don't, and I'll try and get a bit out actually, we don't want surface tension on this for causing beads to crop up. We want this to flow nicely, so by putting a bit of dish soap in there, it just means everything flows nicely. And we're going to put in a fair bit of water. So I'll do what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm going to put a wash on it. We're going to have a slightly thicker wash on the tracks, and I'll only go up to here. If you can't see it, there's no point. I'm not doing the underneath it. Then we'll water it down a bit more and do all the running gear. Then we'll water it down even more and do the sides. Now, to be careful with the decals because we haven't got any clear varnish. Normally, you put a satin varnish over this or a gloss varnish, matte varnish, but normally not full max. It clings on just to seal it in. Now we've got the danger that the wash could build up around these decals or under the decals and that bit of carrier film. So we're going to try and avoid them and just do the lower hull as it's been running round in a dusty area rather than a messy area. So it's going to be quite lightly covered, really, for want of a better word. Let's get something to mix that up. I don't want to use a brush because I want to control what's actually on the brush. Yeah, splash over. That might be a bit thick. We'll find out in a second, won't we? So I'll just get a bit of the track whenever I'm going to see and see if that is too thick for what we want. Maybe just a touch too thick, so we'll put another bit of water in it. And I think it's a bit light as well, so I'm just going to put the smallest drop of our black in that one as well, just to try and take some of the edge off it, because you want it to look like a sort of sandy coloured soil rather than that yellowy colour it's got. It doesn't need much, but that might just be enough to break it down. I mean, again, we're limited because we've got a limited palette with us at the moment, so we do what we can with what we've got. And it's just playing, it's all by eye, it's not. Let's just take some of the yellow. It doesn't mix particularly well because they're not necessarily compatible paints, but that's just taking some of that yellow out of it and just darkening it up that little bit, and I think that's what we want. Potentially a bit more water in there. Call it that. Anything now, just so we get that collecting on the bottom. Let's knock our brush clean. Try it again on the other side. It doesn't look that much different on film, but that's the sort of effect I wanted. So we're going to just go here where we can see the tracks. There'll be other processes after this. But I'm not going to widen the bits you can't see. It's just a case of they've got a bit of muck and grime ground into them. I don't particularly want this that even either. I just want it to, like it says, here you go round anywhere where you've got tracked vehicles like building sites or whatever, they've got some tracked up inside the wheels there, which is a bit of a pain. We don't want a hard ring like that, so we can wipe that off. It's only on that side. I mean, probably go over that a little bit with a cotton bud and just get some of the excess off. We just want it as though that sort of grime you see when you look at diggers and things on sites is just being ground into the steel. That's the sort of effect we're going for. Don't know about that sticking to it. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's giving us roughly what we want. We've got a few bubbles because we've got too much shape in that. And when that's dry, we're going to go over that with a bit of graphite anyway, so you'll have a shiny metal surface, the base layer of the tracks, and you'll have this sort of inbuilt grot. Now, that's quite a thick one there, and we want to go over the rest of running gear to make it dusty as though the tracks have thrown up a load of dust. We'll put a lot more water in it this time, so we end up with a really watery mess. So we just, that'll be the lower part of the running gear gets that. And cover all we can. Well, it's not the neatest job, but we just want to, can't over scrub it actually because I put too much soap in it, but we just want it to sort of stain it up a bit. So dust and crud has built up on these areas, and they'll build in the high spots. So I think the bubbles have let us down. I think I've overdone that, so I'll dab that away. Starting to get what we're looking for though. What we don't want is beads and bubbles in there, but we can get rid of those by What we do want is just a faint dustiness, and because that is a bit overdone in places, clean cotton bud is not the end of the world. We're starting to see we're getting that dusty sort of film building up on it. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm not overly happy with the amount of bubbly soapiness in that, I'm going to get me spare jar here, tip that away, clean that out, and we'll go again a bit. Doesn't matter. So it's mainly water, not paint. So I'll try this, but without the soap, you normally get it beading up a little bit, which is what we don't want. But it might be that these don't when they're thin down, so we'll see. But there's probably enough soap on the brush now to stop that happening. So let's needs to be a lot more watery than that. It's basically what we did on the inside of the vehicle. And then again, as with other things, we've got a perfect test area because it's called the underneath. Yeah, the way that's beading up, that's what we've got the soap in to try and stop that. So I'll get rid of that. But a bit less soap, I think, this time. That was a bit much. It should be enough. It just breaks that tension down. See, when you paint it on now, it doesn't do that beading, it just sort of spreads across the bottom, which is what we're looking for around here. So just go back in here, put a bit more in these areas. Don't forget, it's always going to run downhill, so when you're sorting it out, always in the lower areas, always streak it down. If I'd thought, oh, I should have done this before I glued the wheels on this bit, actually, if I'm being honest, it's a bit of a... But you can see the way it's drying off now. It's not as severe as when it first goes on. We are just trying to get that effect of dust. We don't want it to look filthy and like some sort of rally car. It is meant to be a tank or an armoured fighting vehicle, not a Subaru Impreza on the RAC rally. So just get in there with that. So yeah, I can get some of the excess off that. I mean, you shouldn't be blotting that on your hands, but I always do. This is the side we're going to look at in photographs because it looks better than the other side. So it's just that, trying to get rid of them bubbles on the surface of it, but we're just getting that dusty build-up. And as it dries back, you can see it's not hugely severe. It's just enough. You're getting little bits building up as though dust's caught in the various bits. So this, we'll still use this sort of version of it here on the sides and the front, and then we'll build up a bit there because dust isn't even all over it. And then we're going to dilute it a bit more and go higher up with it, then streak it back down so it grades it a bit. Again, you'd normally buy washes for this sort of thing, but we can't, can we? No. Then we can go down the front here, because the front's going to get absolutely plastered with dust, I would imagine, as this propels itself around following other vehicles. And once we've got that on, what we're going to do is get most of it off the brush. And then we're just going to, because it's the way things work, rain tends to streak things down, so we're just going to work that way so we get a streaking effect. And I will pop a bit more water on the brush soon to when it's thick here, obviously. And I think the working time is going to be a bit less on this than we would do if we had a proper wash. So I'm working a bit more rapidly than I normally would, but that's all right. I'm not getting that build-up on the decals I was worried about, so they're a bit more liberal. In places like this where no one's ever going to stand, we can get that a bit dirtier because that's going to be a naturally more grimy area. Probably a bit more on that front build. You get a dusty film building up around these areas. It's quite nerve-wracking because I was quite happy with the finish, and now I'm just absolutely butchering it. But there you go. It might work, it might not. We can always respray the whole lot. We've got enough decals to do it again, so we're not too worried. I don't think it'll come to that. The back will get quite grimy as well. A bit on that. And by going over the decals, it should take some of the. That's where we had that building up round there. That's the sort of thing we don't want. Beads of it across the bottom. Round those bits of fluting on there, we don't mind it too much. Don't want heavy sort of rims of it everywhere because dust doesn't do that as a general rule. Let's get a bit more cleanness to the brush. Which is what I've got a bit of water squirted on there. That's off camera just so I can get the brush a bit diluted. Say with paint, because it's starting to harden and dry, it's a bit. I've got the same sort of control over it, but we're getting the sort of effects we want, I think. Maybe. I've got cotton bud handy, just the one. Yeah, I think that side will be all right when it dries, actually. Back, relatively happy with. It's just got some... This side... You see it's starting to dry now, so we're getting that streaking effect we're looking for. And we're getting a nice dusty effect around there. So that's all drying off nicely. Front's dry off. I think, see, if it was a pigment, you could come back and reactivate it here. We've got a one and done sort of thing going on, which makes it a bit braver with it, really. I think I'm relatively happy with that. So what I need to do really, oh, my thumb didn't move then. It's just let that dry. We can always put another coat on it if we have to, but I think that one, let that dry off, which won't take long. It's mainly water, so it's not a particularly warm day, but it will still be done in 10 or 15 minutes. And then we'll have a look at it. And if we're happy with it, we leave it. If not, we can add a bit more. Then it's just metallising the tracks and the model's finished. I'll be back when it's dried off. Okay, so that's drying off nicely. So it's quite a subtle effect, but it's built up around these corners where you'd expect it to. And we've got streaks running down the sides. That side, maybe a little bit over the top. I just wonder if we can quickly tone that down. I don't know how easy it is to reactivate these as paints, but you say normally you'd use a pigment and it's a lot simpler. You can keep working on those until you finally seal them in, but we might be able to get a bit more working on that. Seems to be doing a little bit more. So it's generally got a lot of dust and grime thrown up as though it would if there's a couple of these going in convoy across a field or an unmade road. They would be filthy. So yeah, we're getting that effect. That side maybe not as good. So the next thing we need to think about why that's drying a little bit more is metallizing the track. So it's the same as what we did earlier on with the Brenguns. We're going to get a pencil, shave it away until we get down to the lead, and scrape at the pencil lead. Ooh. Scrape at the pencil lead off so we get this lead graphite powder. Don't do too much because it does get everywhere and it's a pain in the bum if you don't want things to be shiny to have that all over it. Get that on our cotton bud. And just hit the tops of the tracks. I'm not going too far round because firstly you never see it further down, and also you don't want graphite all over your shelves. We're starting to get that sort of metallic glint to it now. So it's the metal polish. I wonder if you can just do it direct on these ones. Sometimes you can get away with it, sometimes you can't. And also you can use different grades of pencil. This is an HB. If you use the softer pencil, you get more of a shine, but I'm just using what's readily available. But you're starting to get a bit of metallic glint on that face, and it's taken some of the dust out of it, which is really what we're looking for. Which was the one I used, not that one. Probably that one. So I'll just do the same on this side. A bit round here and a bit round here, as though it's everything's scraped as it goes. Again, it's in the effect of an effect rather than effect, if you know what I mean. It's not what I didn't want to happen there. You've got the wash building up around that decal. We'll try and blend that in a bit in a minute. We'll just carry on with this. Get this on, and then we'll give that a polish in a minute. I'll just try and get that decal sorted as well. I didn't want the edges of the carafilm to be as contaminated as that. I've got carried away, and as per usual, they've got that metallic glint, so you won't see it a lot. You'll just see it. I'll polish them up in a minute. You just get the hint of a shine, which, well, that's the other bit we said we were going to do, didn't we? Those sprocket teeth, because they're quite effective on those. The paint would wear off those for the tracks to go in, so you just want a bit of a metal sheen there. Same on this side. I mean, everything's meant to be equal and balanced, but you're going to put this on a shelf, so just you're only ever going to see one side at a time. So I'm never that fussed if one side looks a bit different. Those will be polished as the tracks pass over and bits of gravel and grit and all sorts. So where we've really laid it on here, we'll just get that and just give it hopefully it won't take it off, it'll just shine it up. I'm not sure if you can pick that up. I'm jerking that all over the place, sorry. I'm not sure if you can pick that up on the camera, but you're just getting that you just saw a bit there, that shine. That's what you're looking for. So the light just catches it. You get that polished metal effect, which you will get as tracks run over roads. Again, that one there, you can really see it starting to come out. And as this paint here dries back, that'll look like a dusty sort of film building up. It won't look quite dramatic. It's still drying. So I think that's, and again, I don't know if you can see it, the shine on those sprocket wheels. That's the sort of thing we were trying to get. I think that is near enough done. It just needs to dry off a little bit. Oh yeah, I said I was going to try and do something about that there, didn't I? So I need more or less, but what we can't have, that's better. What we can't have is it building up around the triangle of that decal, because it looks a bit weird if it's got that hard edge line. So try and smear that in a bit, so that's got a load of dust on that one, and then try and balance it up this side, and that'll probably mess that one up. But it just stops it building around the film around that decal. And as the decal's got a different texture, it'll stick to it a bit differently as well. But that's, I think, although I said we don't want to, we don't want that in there. I said we don't want a big bead of it. You don't necessarily, but I'd rather have that bead there than the build up around the decal. So I think we're going to call that here. I'll let that dry off. Then I'll take some still photos, upload all this, and this one is finally finished. And so I've already recorded it, but I've got a bit of a summary of what I thought, how I thought it went modelling on a bare minimum of tools and equipment, which is basically what this was, starting up from scratch. So you've got your 50 quid spend, and what can you do with it? If I'm honest, I thought I'd be quite frustrated by having the bare minimum of equipment. I've got so many tools lying around, but the truth is I really enjoyed it. I wish I had a slightly browner colour is the only thing. So I wish I'd spent another £2.50 and got myself a sort of earth brown, more of a soily brown. But it's not the end of the world. What we've got's worked out. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I'll switch off now because I'm rambling on again. I shall upload all this. I'll do the thing about the tools at the end, which you can and can't watch. It all depends if you want to have. It's not a review, it's just my feelings. And then on with the next kit, which if you look at the tools one after this, it'll show you what the next kit's going to be. So thanks for sticking with it. It's gone on a bit again as usual. I'll try and be more concise and script in the future, but that's the weathering and finishing this model done. Thanks for watching. Bye.